I'll do as you ask, my lady. I'll bring you fire.
I love Exile 2. Do people play this game anymore? I'm not sure, but I play it, and because of that, we're going to be making a couple of builds. And the first one is a Siege Cascade Tactician. Now, the whole idea behind playing Siege Cascade on Tactician specifically is because of this node right here, Suppressing Fire. Projectile damage builds pin. If you don't know about Siege Cascade, it says 280% more damage against immobilized enemies, and pinned enemies are considered immobilized. There's a couple versions of this build going around. I think there's one version using like, what is it, the painter's gloves and going electrocute and things like that. But I decided to go with the pretty straightforward version, which is just take the node on the tree that makes you always pin and always immobilize. Now, the whole idea behind this build is that I wanted to play some kind of crossbow build, and I wanted a build that didn't require you to do a whole bunch. I just wanted to be able to right click and clear the screen and clear a single target and not have to worry about it. The idea behind Siege Cascade is the way that it works is that every single enemy near the point that you click gets hit with a projectile from the sky from this ability. So you just click anywhere nearby the enemies and it hits literally everything. So that's the idea behind this. That's the reason I wanted to play it. The clear is insanely good. This single target is okay. It's not really a single target skill. I mainly farm like Simulacrum and stuff with this, to be honest with you. But that's the idea behind the basic ability, is that you can just clear essentially the entire screen with one button. There's no changing ammo, there's no any of that. You just right click. But to be able to actually do damage, we need to be able to pin stuff. So there is very little support for pin on the tree. It's basically just this node, I think. It's pin and run, which is not really worth getting. You need some projectile speed, so we grab projectile speed here. And besides that, we basically have projectile speed and pin buildup on every single jewel that we possibly can get it on. It's basically the only place that you can get it, so that's what we've done. So going over the gems, we've got Siege Cascade. This is our main ability. We are linking this with Primal Armament, Martial Tempo, Execute, and Fire Infusion. Execute is because we are going the deepest tower, and enemies are basically always on low life. And then the last link is going to be either Lockdown for more difficult enemies, or Acceleration for just general map clear. You really don't need this if you scale even just a little bit of projectile speed on the tree. You can get some like bolt speed and stuff on your crossbow and stuff like that. But Lockdown is much, much more powerful. I would suggest that you probably drop like Fire Infusion instead of dropping Lockdown if you're doing single target. Like this is pretty powerful, pretty important, and you don't need acceleration on most bosses or most boss type content. Next ability is going to be Artillery Ballista. Now, Artillery Ballista is pretty much just a support skill, if I'm going to be honest with you. So we do have up to 3 of them that we can place down. We've got a chance to get a couple more. We do use this with a offhand crossbow. So the offhand crossbow is just going to give us +7 to level of skills. We don't care about damage on artillery ballista. This is just to tank some hits, give us some rage, and tank a few abilities, essentially. Other than that, our only other active ability is emergency reload. We just use this to give us a little bit more damage during our pin window when we have pinned enemies, since we do 280% more damage during that window. Emergency reload is using premeditation because it's an empowered skill, and it's using ingenuity, so it's up a little bit more often. Besides that, it's pretty much just auras, and yeah, so we're using Wind Dancer, Cannibalism, because it gives us some recovery as we're killing enemies, Maim, Arm's Length, and Magnified Effect. This makes it so that the Wind Dancer proc that can happen is a little bit better. We're using Shard Scavenger, and we're proccing it with Firestorm. So Shard Scavenger got buffed recently, and they make it so that whenever you consume any free shock, ignite, or fully broken armor, you instantly reload your crossbow, and you don't consume bolts for a certain amount of time. So we are increasing the duration of this, and then we're just trying to give it as many levels as we can. If you have a 6th link, I think you can probably give this physical, lightning, cold, and fire mastery, but I just didn't care to spend the money on that because it doesn't really matter. And then as said, we do mostly fire damage, so cast on Ignite's pretty much the only way to go about this, but we are consuming Ignites with Firestorm. And then Temporal Chains is just kind of like the only curse that really works for this build. You could do Enfeeble if you wanted to. Realistically, we don't need to penetrate any more fire res, and the curse making targets have debuffs stay on them longer is pretty good. We also do use Combat Frenzy as well as Charge Infusion. This is just for clear. Combat Frenzy, we do pin pretty much constantly, so we have permanent uptime on this while clearing. Perfusion is just to give us a chance to get a couple extra shards. This just gives us more skill speed while we are clearing, which is pretty powerful. And then lastly, we've got our companion. I was never able to find a haste aura. That's all you really care about here. My guy has heals allies and suppresses foe recovery, which is cool, I guess. He also has Magma Barrier to keep himself alive a little bit. We are using Meat Shield, Loyalty, Elemental Army, and Minion Mastery. Just trying to keep him alive and have him take a little bit of damage for us. Talking about the tree, this is a Deepest Tower tree, so we are grabbing Stars Aligned, which makes all of our damage with hits lucky, which is absolutely insane. Lucky things are rolled twice and they use the better result. This is nuts, absolutely insane for this build, like an unimaginable amount of damage. And then these little nodes each give us 30 damage. This one gives us 60 damage. We take Finality over here, which gives us 120% increased damage. We get this with a controlled metamorphosis if I can mouse over it here. You don't have to take this. You can just path up to Finality if you really want to, but this saves a bunch of points, and it also gets you like Unnatural Resilience, saves some points here, and it does get you some totem nodes for your offhand. Besides that, pretty straightforward tree. Crossbow nodes, damage nodes. We do take quite a bit of this reduced slowing potency and reduced movement speed penalty nodes. These are just really good for crossbows because you're pretty much always going to be attacking like this, and your character moves very, very slow without those nodes. So I take them. Besides that, like damage nodes, evasion, some dexterity stats. You pretty much are going to be getting as much dexterity as you possibly can and filling out enough strength and intelligence just to be able to use your gear and your skills. For our offhand tree, we're just trying to get these totems to stay alive. We want totem placement speed, we want totem life, resistances, physical damage reduction. Anything that makes these totems just survive a little bit better is essentially what we want. We also get +1 totem here, and then I think we also get +1 totem here, so we can have 3, and we have a 20% chance to summon 2. Just a bunch of totem life. That's really all that we care about here. Now as for the gear. So the only unique on this build is going to be the Deepest Tower. This makes it so that enemies in your presence, which you can see here how large it is, are considered as being on low life, meaning that gems like Execute will work on them, the low life stuff on the tree will work on them, anything that says low life will work on these enemies as long as you're nearby them. With this helmet, we gain a pretty good way to scale damage. We get like 250 plus lucky plus 50% more because of this helmet. Pretty strong. It's not insanely expensive right now, but it's one of like 3 ways to actually scale damage at the moment. Kind of necessary. Other than that, it's just life, resistances, stats, armor evasion, as much of it as you can realistically get. There's nothing super crazy here. We have leech, life, and mana here. Honestly, I do think that mana gained on kill is probably better than mana leech because we don't do a lot of fizz damage and it doesn't feel like it does anything. On an amulet, you do want to try to get projectile skill levels. This is a very good way to scale damage on this build. If you can't wing the spirit for this, you can just drop the companion. It's not super important. Like, he's good, but you can drop the companion, or if you want to, you can drop charge infusion and combat frenzy. Either of those, you can drop either of them if you can't get spirit on the amulet. We do use a presence area of effect here on our boots just to make this presence a little bit bigger, make it a little easier. And then for the weapon, you want as much physical damage as you can possibly get, and it has to have at least +1 bolts. Either like a Gemini crossbow base for +1 bolts, or 1 or 2 additional bolts on the actual crossbow itself. Other than that, just get as much physical damage as you possibly can, and fire damage is also fine. Lightning damage is okay. It lets you shock during your pin windows, but besides that, you really want physical and fire. As for leveling, it will be detailed in the Mobalytics guide, which is going to be linked down in the description. The written version of this guide is always going to be the most up-to-date. Make sure to check this, especially in the future. If stuff like this survives, it will be updated down there. Make sure that you go check out the link in the description down below. What I suggest that you level as, which is just going to be bow for a couple of levels, lightning spear until 51, and then as soon as Siege Cascade is available at 52, you can swap to it immediately and level with it the rest of the way through. You don't have to go lightning spear if you really don't want to, but it's just easy and very good, and it doesn't require any crazy gear or anything. You can even go like Tangle Tongue and Font of Power and just have a super overpowered character until you get to Siege Cascade. All the leveling is here, as well as a basic version that doesn't use the Deepest Tower. I do suggest that you swap to Deepest Tower as soon as you possibly can. It's just a ridiculous amount of damage. Now, as for the cost of this build, it's not insane. And the reason that I didn't go crit on this build is mainly because I just don't think most of you guys will ever be able to actually go crit. Getting a crossbow that has crit and enough damage and any extra bolts is just so insanely difficult, at least right now because nobody's crafting them, that I just don't think it's realistic. So I stayed with just low life. I think that this is probably obtainable for most people because most of the gear, besides maybe the amulet and the crossbow, is really straightforward gear. This is just like rares with resist that you need and as much armor, evasion, life as you can get. That's it. There's nothing super special here. For the jewels, these could get expensive, but just go for pin buildup and projectile speed. The pin buildup is the most important part here. These shouldn't be insanely expensive. You don't need 4 like modifier jewels, just get any damage that works. And like I said, you don't need controlled metamorphosis. This is already a little expensive as is. Besides that, there's really not that much here. As I said, there is full information on basically everything that you could ever want, including like Atlas trees, how to play it, mapping, bossing. Simulacrum is the main thing that I farm with this build. I think it's what you should be doing most likely if you're going to be playing this build. You can do some bossing. I really suggest only getting like +3 bosses down so you can fill out your trees and then just being done with it, because bossing isn't super fun on this build. It's more of a clear build in my opinion. And that's going to be it for the video. Expect a couple of build guides here probably before the PoE 1 patch that's coming out, which I'll do some coverage on as well. Feeling a little bit better. I'm not going to go super deep into it, but I'm at least back to being able to like make videos and play games and all that kind of stuff. So make sure to check out the guide for this down below, and remember boys, like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest videos, and stay safe out there in raid class. And I'll see you guys in the next video.